All right, good day to all. Happy Friday. Since it is Friday, we are going to take a look here at Bitcoin to the dollar. So this has been the pattern we've been doing lately with videos. So we're doing Bitcoin on every Friday. So for some of you that are prone to asking me for updates on Bitcoin, whether it's on YouTube or every Friday we do Bitcoin going into the weekend, and that we'll probably stick with that for the foreseeable future. But here we are. So this is Bitcoin to the dollar. Now I've got a 12-hour here just to get some perspective on it. So this is the more bullish count that we have a hard low here that we put in this V bottom, and a few things that I've shown before, but just in case there's someone who hadn't seen this, we're trying to qualify these pivots as we always are. What pivots can we find that are technical that give us some clue as to where we might be? So the swing high here to this first swing low, I propose as an A wave. Then we get our 3 wave into our B. You can see here we get through the golden zone a little bit. We stay under the 786, and then you can see we come right to algo targets. First target here, negative 23.6, negative 618. So these are incredibly technical. All right, so there's a from an Elliott perspective, there's a reasonable stance that we could be trading here into a 1, 2, into a 3, and that we've just done a 4. And we can't discount that. But what we can do is work off of the assumption that these are clearly significant pivots. So it's not unreasonable. It's equally as valid to suggest that we've got a 1, 2, 3 here on this technical pivot. Up for the 4, we come down for the 5 here, right? So the symmetry is not as ideal as an Elliott trader would want to see. We have the extension in the 5th. It's not terribly uncommon, but the fact that we're so technical here. So as I will often suggest that, in today's markets, I continually suggest to you that you work the algo fib pulls as your priority, and you apply Elliott wave within those ranges to try and help you with entry, with risk management, with trying to define risk reward areas where you can get in behind the algorithms. But you have to defer to what they're doing first. They dictate the market, and if you want to argue that with me, feel free. But I think there's pretty strong evidence here. I mean, I'd like to hear your counter argument to those being the significant pivots. So that being said, if you allow for that, this certainly has a count that does not violate any Elliott wave principles. So we can work this as a 3-5. So if that's our 5, and we now have completed the correction here. So I'll take this off since we are establishing that as at least a significant pivot. How about we work that way? Well, what's making Bitcoin so difficult right now is that this didn't move. We can get an impulse there, but it didn't have the kind of wave subdivision that would make this easier for us, right? So first reminder, nobody said this was going to be easy. So this is what's a struggle, because you can really make a strong case here that this looks like we've got an ABC. All right, hard to argue with that, because at this point we don't have the defining tell here of whether or not we're going to get up and get a 5-wave sequence, or this is just going to roll over and we're going to head down this way and start doing this. Then we get our retracement here, and now we start looking like we're going down in 5. That would imply that this would end up being our 3rd, ABC into a 4th. Now, in that count, whether you're working this as a 1, 2, which would be the ultra bearish count, 1, 2, 3, we just put in the 4, or whether you'd count it this way, you'd maintain the AB, and then we'd have 1, 2, 3, big 4, deep 4, going down for the 5. There's no count here that's really perfect. That's just ideal. This is what makes trading interesting, but equally as challenging. There's nothing that's obvious and easy here. So all we can do is just kind of work backwards, as I will often tell you. It's just a process of deductive reasoning. So what do we start with? Can we find technical pivots? Yes, we've got these identified. We know those are technical pivots, and there's strong evidence that that's algorithmic activity. This is the final reaction here off of their second target, and we've had this deep reaction. So given that, before we can confirm, we need to see what happens here. Do we get a 4-5? All right, so in here this would, people can argue with me on this, but this being the highest pivot here and that the deepest retracement, we can work this as a equally significant as a pivot. If we break that pivot, well, that changes the count. Now we'd be considering, are we in a diagonal going down? Just as we have to deal with the fact that this retracement here has been rather steep. So whether you were playing this as your one wave or this as your one wave, we violated both. So regardless of where you've got your count, and there are certainly alternate counts here that are valid. No question now we're in a diagonal, whether this is a 1 or this is a 1, or, well, this would complete it. So if you're counting with the bearish count, you could make a case that this was your 1. Well, clearly we've overlapped that, so we'd be in a diagonal here. The ultra bearish count is that's a 1, 2. You've overlapped this as well here. So diagonal, no matter how you slice it. So if we just start pulling from these pivots, we know this was significant because that was that's the retracement that led to the negative 23 and the negative 618. So if I just work from that pivot knowing that that's significant, and I work down to my swing low here, well, what have we done? We've just gone right to the 50, which is, like that, you had to expect that, right? So we have to expect that there's going to be resistance at the 50. We know algorithms that are written to just work these swings are going to start selling there. And so far it's been effective. Now, do we come down here? Because we will equally have algorithms working from this swing, right? The algorithm doesn't care about the wave count, doesn't care about anything. It's just going to keep selling 50s, defend to the 618. So what have we done here? We've come to the 38. Which would, where you might expect it. If we're going to get this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, we gotta check the length on the third and the fifth, because we've got to maintain the wave relationship structure here. Because as let me just show you what I'm talking about here. All right, so we've done 50 to 50. Let's take this off here just for a second, just to clear up the chart. If we're going to work this on the bullish scenario, that this is a 1, 2, 3, potentially 4, going for the 5. All right, well, we got to check the length of the 1 and the 3 just to double check it. So this is just, a requirement that you've got to do. So if we're going to play that as a 1, right, so my third, okay, good. So third is longer than the first. We're just coming shy of the 1, 2, 7. So we've got a valid 1, 2, 3 here, and there was good subdivision here. You can actually even see it on a 12-hour chart. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got a good valid potential third here. And as I just showed you, we've just done a 38. So we've got two things to look at here. We've got from the absolute low, which you got to factor that in. Come here. From the absolute low to the high. All right, we've got the 38. But we also have to look at the 2. All right, so from the 2 to the 3, here yet again, we've just done the 50. So 50 to 50, and it's gone through just a hair on each side. So what do we get next? That will help us define what we're experiencing here, whether this is an ABC or a 1, 2, 3, 4. If we get the push up for a 5, then we can take a little bit more comfort in the idea that we have a hard pivot low here and we've come off of it with a 5-wave structure. If it maintains, if this holds as our 4, we've got a 5-wave impulse. Okay, good news for bulls if we get it, and we don't know that we do. But take note that so just now I'm hypothetical here. So all I'm doing here is I'm taking this is our 50, this is the algo target, the negative 23.6. If that ends up being our pivot high, which is about 12.8, let's call it. Well, then we're just going to work from a completed 5-wave sequence. Again, now I'm hypothetical on this pivot here. We don't have that yet. But if that's our pivot, well, then we're looking for a 3-wave to come down here to confirm and give us a 2. Right? So ideally, you'd get something with the subdivision. You'd look for coming down here somewhere in this range, the ideal range for our second wave between the 50 and the 618. So even if we get this and we get up to 12.8, that that's a nothing says that it must turn there and it could keep going. But if we start to roll over here, that's a decision you have to make. Do you want to let this retrace now? Because the expectation would be we're going to retrace at least to the 50 if we complete a 5 wave. If you've been, got long down here somewhere, do you want to withstand that kind of retracement back all the way to 9.3? Because the expectation would be that that's coming. So if you're a bull, you got to make a decision there as to whether or not, if we get this move up to give us that 5-wave sequence, do you want to take profit here or not? Well, let's see if we can find any other evidence here. Now, I'm wicking this off as a potential target here for our 5th. Right, just the algo target. Well, let's check these major pivots here. So if I'm coming back this way, if I look swing low to swing high, well, that's kind of interesting. So do you notice this? So here's our negative 23 right in the golden zone. So if we hit that target, again, it's a bit of a mixed signal, because we still have a couple of different things that could be happening. This could be, as it's a 5 wave, that could be an A wave, could be a 1 wave. I mean, there's a few other variables here, but this is going to be stiff resistance. So if we can get through that, if I can get this hot. If we can get through that, well, then we're looking a whole lot better, because then we've got the algorithms on our side here. So then the algorithm's this short. Now we've got one more to get through, right? That's up here. That's the last one before they all go bullish. Then all they're doing then is just taking the next 50 on the way down, right? So that's what they do. So if we break the 65, then they're going to wait for the next 50 and they're going to buy that. Right, that's the pattern that the algorithms are written to do, right? And then their target would be up here at the 786. You see that? So if we go up here, we've got ongoing resistance to get through. It's just the reality of it. But the 5-wave structure would be a clear tell that we've moved off of this low, so it confirms this low. The odds are now reduced that we're going down. We're going down, because if 1 wave or A wave, it would imply higher. Right now, technically, right, we could do an A, B, C. This is, I hate to give you alternates here, but you still could have an A, B, C and then end up going, still can't rule it out, right? That's the thing about it. So potentially, though, we have this move here. This is the best looking move here where there's opportunity, because what are we sitting at here? 10.2. We've got to move up to, call it 12.8 for that's the all the way back 50. We've got this move here, which takes us into the golden zone, and then we've got the algo target right here to add to that. So this would be the next move that's very tradable, right? We've done the 38. You've got the move here. Now we're going to go down to the smaller time frame. It's hard to trade this off the 12-hour. I mean, you can. You certainly can. Nothing says you can't. But if you're trying to refine the entry, we might go down to a smaller time frame. But those are all the scenarios that are still there. Still there. Can't rule them out. You just got to take it 1 wave at a time. And the way to trade this is, if we get a 5 wave, well, we're expecting a 3 wave, and we're expecting it to come down between the 50 and the 618. Whether that's a B wave or whether that's a 2 wave, you would trade it the same way. And then you see we have the same issue up here, right? So if it were going to go as a 1-2, well, we can start measuring here where the third is. We get the third, we get past 100, get to some of those upper wave relationship targets, the 1-6-1-8. Would be the expectation for the third. Now we start to relax a little bit, that we've got a 1-2, we're in the 3, we're off to new highs, and then we're trading for the 4, and then ultimately the 5. Right? So that's the bullish roadmap, but you still have to deal with this coming. There's going to be some sort of a retracement of that 5-wave structure. That's just the way the markets move. Whether it's B or whether it's a 2, that's going to be there. So that's. My point being, you got to make a decision when you get up here. Are you a holder or are you a swing trader? Because that's a place for a swing trader to, at the very least, tighten up your stops. All right, so let's go down to the smaller time frame if we want to stay on the bullish count. So I'm going to switch over to, just because I've got some work done here. I've got a lot of members that are trading this on GDAX here. So here we sit. This is the 60-minute. You can see the assumption here. Now we've got a 1, 2. Now this is there's a count that's valid here that we could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've already completed. But I think we can still hold out here for this being a deep 4. We didn't overlap the 1. We have this nice subdivision down here. We've got a technical pivot down here. So if we can get out of this in 5 waves, that would imply that the potential is still there. If we go 5 waves here, for this to come up and complete the 5th relative here in white, that this would be a deep 4, right? So here's the 50. We know a 4 more typically, the deeper, the stronger the move, the more likely you're between the 23 and the 38. We've gone deep. We've gone through. So we went all the way between the 50 and the 618. Kind of interesting here. We stay, here's we prior resistance offering a little support almost to the tick. Then we had this channel intersection here. So there's a lot of things here. Now we've broken this channel, the channel of that coming down. So we have this potentially, this nice channel in play, giving us a 2, 4 here. Now let's go down to take it all the way down to the 30-minute where I do a lot of trading if I'm trying to swing trade. So, this is a little choppy down here. That's a little shallow. Ideally, you'd like to have seen that come a little lower. So we could have gotten a better count in here. You might be down to the 10-minute trying to get 5 wave here, and potentially you end as an extension, and end in an extension down here for this as a 5th. But it's technical. We're right in the little hot box here where you'd expect it. That's a front run. So you could make the case that it's a front run on the 618. You're a little bit shy of 100%, as I recall here from this. Yeah, that was why the box was. So you had this nice cluster down here. We were trying to get that last night if we were going to get a perfect little dab into the golden zone. That's the 100 and the 618 lining up almost on top of each other. There was an attempt. We made an attempt to try and buy that to add to the 50, but we didn't get it. Comes up shy of it. Now we may not have a 3, 4, 5 here. This could be just an ABC. All right, we got to deal with that. So let's take this off. Let's open this up a little bit so you can see what I'm after here. So we've got it. So potentially we've got our A wave in. It's not the prettiest B wave because there's a bit of an implication here that we have that looks more like a 5. So we might have to look at it this way. We might have A, B, C because that does look like a 5. So potentially you have this. You have a little expansion. You have that because you get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. So that's, if you're a stickler for Elliott wave detail, that's likely what you have here. An expanded B wave here goes below the low of the A wave. A, B, 5 waves into the C. This is still the pivot that works. So if we get if that's what we have here, if an A, B, and we've come down here and we're ending with a choppy little diagonal, well, if we're going to come off of that in 5, same thing that we would do for any chart, we're going to wick off the 1, if I can get it on there. We're going to wick off the 1 high. All right, what have we done for the 4? Now let's blow this up a little bit more. Okay, potentially a 3. Look at the Vegas wave offering that resistance right in the pocket of the Vegas wave. It's amazingly consistent. So here's our 1, 2 potentially now. So let's, same thing. Doesn't matter what the coin, what the spread, what the asset. Same thing every time. There's our potential 4 to front run on the 50. We don't overlap the 1. So very technically valid. Can we get 5 waves here? Well, that's a good sign right there. We're getting that little pump. So do we get this move? Do we get this thing to come up and give us a new high here? So can we get? So here's the algo target off of this 50. You would expect at the very least a reaction there. So if we get that, then again, it's just a process of what's the expectation next. So if we get that, then we're going to look for a retracement of the entire move. Again, now I go hypothetical here. Here's the hypothetical 5th up here at the algo target. If we get that, then next trade, you get a little more confidence here because now we're looking between the 50 and the 618. Right, we've completed the 1, so on the larger degree off of this low, we get more confidence in this low. If we get 5 waves off of it rather than 3, then we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going up. Let's increase that. Let's change the color and we'll go up to minuet. Do you see what we'd have here? So we'd have a 1 potentially confirming. So all that's doing is confirming this low. Good technical pivot here for the 4. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potentially gives us a 1. So let's back out a little bit. Where would that put us? Well, let's see. If we're going to work off of the assumption that we've got a BC in and we get a 5-wave sequence, you know, unless it's very very hard to count that any other way. This would still work as a 4. We'd be going into the 1, 2. We know the 3 is going to be up by the -618. We'd be looking at something like this. So the expectation is we'd come up for the 1. So here's your roadmap. Down for the 2, then up for the 3 to the 1618, which can be very close to the -100. Then we got to get this, right? So it may take all weekend for this to play out. That's the potential hypothetical roadmap off of this low. Let's pull out again. Where does that put us? Well, now we're going up to try and challenge the high here to get us a 5-wave sequence. Where does that put us? If that gives us a 5-wave, well then now we've confirmed the hard low down here, right? So now we're confirming this low, that we've got a 5-wave structure. And as I was just showing you on the longer time frame, what's next? If we come up here and we get this for our 5th, the entire thing gets retraced, right? The expectation, I shouldn't say it that way. The expectation is that the entire 5-wave sequence gets corrected. We expect that correction to move in 3, but we expect it to go as deep as, at minimum, the 50%. So if we get this all the way up here, so now you got to look over here to the left. When you get this many lines on it, I know it's very hard for you to see this. So if we look over to the left, here's the 50 right here. That's at 9.2. So this is your best case scenario, that we go up and complete the 5th here, and then we retrace to 9.2, and that holds. So not, you know, we're a long way from 20K still. You know, a lot of work to get done here to get this technically back, you know, pointed towards those bigger targets. Right. So if I now take this back, so if we can get that, remember we've got all that resistance to get through. So if we can get this 5, then we're expecting the 2 down here. Then we need the big move here to give us a 3. Got to get a 3 off of that. That's the scenario that we're hoping for bulls that gets us to new highs. Now, you know, it's going to take some time to do it, but that's certainly there. What's the bearish case? Well, the bearish case is that this ends up being a B wave here. This is, well, this would be A, B, C into this no longer being a 5. So let's take that off. This resistance holds. Let's see if I can do this quickly because I know I'm running long here. So this resistance, let's get this off. Okay, so we'd have an ABC. This is the bearish count. So we'd have ABC up in here. I know a lot of people still see this. ABC into that. Now we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? And if we go all the way up to check that, we're just at the 38. Now, if it goes 5, then the only way you can count that, if you're bearish, is, the only way you can count that, if you're a bear, the only way you can play that is that you've got an A wave, B, C, which would still be corrective. So if that goes up to a 5 and then we come down, then you're playing this, as I was showing you before. Then you're playing this as an A, B, C, on the assumption that eventually this thing now works down towards lows. That this is all still, as long as it stays internal, right? So if you could think of it this way, this is this high right here, right, and this low right here. As long as this stays internal, it's still correcting it. We have to get outside of it one way or the other, either to go external, right? Are we going to go external on the downside or external on the upside? Right now, everything happening in here is just within that range, and everything we've done is all internal. Right now, this move here is internal to this. Do you see that? So it's internal and external retracements. So that we are still retracing internal to that swing. Now we start coming down here, we're retracing internally to this swing, right? It's this battle to try and go from internal to external. Right now we're hoping that we go external for bulls. We're hoping we get external of just this first one, just this first pivot here. Can we get external here? Then can we get external to this? right? That would imply then we get the 3. Can we get external to the entire range? So there's a few roadmaps for you. Like I said, this, it's not supposed to be easy, and it's not. It's not easy. But we are at least at a point where we're going to get more information. Over this weekend, we are going to get more information. Is this going 3-4, or is the C in and we're going down? We shall see. All right, guys, I'll wrap it there.